Hello and welcome to the talk show, and today I'm going to be talking about, analysing and giving my opinion on the policies of the main parties standing in England in the 2019 general election. I'm going to talk about the Conservatives first. They've been in government for the last 9 years and are led by Boris Johnson. When the Tories entered government in the 2010 coalition, they set about cutting our deficit and our national debt. And over the last 9 years they have been doing this. However, their recent spending pledges risk undoing all of this work. The Conservatives, Labour, are competing with each other to see who has the most money to spend. But the problem is that Labour and Conservatives would fund much of this by much more borrowing. More borrowing would mean increasing the amount of money that the government has to spend on interest, and it would increase the amount of money that the government has to pay off in the future. This is a massive turnaround in policy from when the Conservatives said that they wanted to balance the books. The Conservative Party used to have spending pledges that mean that we as a country would try to work within our means. However, these pledges throw all of that into jeopardy. I think that they're very quickly becoming a populist party, promising short-term, easy-fix solutions without seriously considering what impact this massive increase in borrowing will have in the future. The Conservatives and Labour do say that we can now borrow more because of the very low interest rates. We can borrow cheaply, making this borrowing the ideal way to invest in the economy. However, the scale of the debt is so large that we would still have to pay off incredibly big amounts of interest, even with the rates very low. And the low interest rates aren't guaranteed in the future, especially with the economy facing uncertainty over Brexit. Our credit rating as a country could be downgraded. Rather sadly, I think the Conservatives have left behind the moderates of Ken Clarke and Rory Stewart, and now the right-wing nationalists such as Priti Patel or Jacob Rees-Mogg have taken over the party. They also want to leave the EU with a very hard Brexit, severing our ties from the EU's customs union and single market, ruining our zero tariff access to the EU's trading bloc. In my opinion, this would destroy foreign investment and confidence in the UK's economy, because we no longer have that access to the EU's trade deals and to the EU's trade market. Labour isn't much better. Their hard left policies of a state controlling large sectors of the economy could potentially be very damaging. They support having much higher taxes for the very rich and for big business. I think this would have the same effect as Boris's Brexit. Jeremy would lose our competitiveness on the world stage and scare away big corporations. These big companies make up lots of the Treasury's income. The top 1% of earners pay 27% of income tax collected by HMRC, and if we change our taxes so that they are much higher and they scare away these big earners and big businesses and they go and pay their taxes in countries such as the US or Germany, then we lose that income and it falls to the rest of us to pay more. Labour's policies risk that happening. And while you may have thought the Conservatives' borrowing was excessive, the Labour Party's is extreme. Their borrowing was run into the hundreds of billions of pounds, massively increasing our debt. But I think the really dodgy thing that Labour is doing is that they're hiding away that debt so that we can't see it in public sector net worth. Interestingly, the Liberal Democrats are more economically credible in this general election than both the Labour Party and the Conservatives, according to the IFS. They will borrow significantly less than both of them, and they have very pro-business policies, such as remaining inside of the European Union and scrapping business rates for small businesses. While a second referendum would have been the best way to solve Brexit, I think that going in to renegotiate the Brexit deal would be really abusing the EU's good nature. We don't even know if Jeremy Corbyn would support this new deal or not. And what about other smaller parties? Well, the Brexit Party is a hard right nationalist mess. They have extremely little policy on anything. If they were elected to government, then they would leave the European Union with a very hard Brexit without a deal, and then very little, we know extremely little actually, about what they would do. They have hardly any policy on things such as climate change or the NHS or the welfare state or taxation or emergency services or whatever. They have extremely little policy. They have a 22-page manifesto with hardly any detailed policy proposals whatsoever. What about the Greens? Well, they're essentially the Labour Party, just more pro-EU. Jeremy Corbyn was very sceptical of a second referendum only supported it when his party forced him to. He's also opposed much of what the European Union is. However, the Greens threw themselves headfirst into a second referendum and would absolutely support Remain. They think the European Union is essential to the UK. However, because the Greens are so similar to the Labour Party, I think they would also run the risk of destroying or damaging the economy with their economic policies. It's weird how similar Labour's policy is to the Greens' manifesto. They both support universal basic income, much higher taxation for the very rich. They both want the UK to work towards a 4-day working week. So finally, that leaves the Liberal Democrats. On the economy, they are a centrist party. They don't support the sort of involvement that Labour wants, but also reject the Thatcherite deregulation that the Conservatives support. They want small increases in taxes and no excessive nationalisation. They have ideas for boosting the economy by more business-led investment. They want to decarbonise capitalism. They don't want to shut companies out of the climate debate. They want to actively invite them in. Labour would go to the European Union and negotiate a new Brexit deal. Yes, another new Brexit deal requiring another big, long extension to the Brexit process. And then after they renegotiated it, they would put it back to the people in the form of a second referendum. Their simple stop Brexit on day one policy risks angering loads of people who voted leave and they feel rejected by the establishment. However, it is important to remember that the Liberal Democrats could only implement this policy if they had a majority. So they can only stop Brexit if they have public support for it. So, the Conservatives support unsustainable spending and a disastrous Brexit. Labour supports a massive Brexit delay and a damaging economic policy. The Greens are basically just a more pro-EU version of Labour. The Brexit Party is a mess and the Liberal Democrats risk enraging half of the population. It doesn't seem like a great choice of parties. However, it could also be seen as the Conservatives wanting to properly invest in the country and to respect the referendum result. Labour giving massive change to those who feel left behind by the establishment, with massive investment projects all over the country. The Greens standing up to climate change and tackling it head on, and the Liberal Democrats keeping us stronger and safer inside of the European Union. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.